Good morning, class. Today we are examining selling concepts to build and maintain a customer relationship. There are 14 parts to truly understand the inner mechanisms of building a relationship through the selling process. There are 8 steps of the selling process, that being the pre-approach, the approach, determining needs, presenting the product, overcoming objections, suggestion selling, closing the sale, and relationship building. The pre-approach is a range of marketing activities that happen before a salesperson meets or phones a customer. Then is the approach, which is making your first personal connection with your prospect or interacting with your buyer. The third step in the sales process is determining needs. You have to listen to the customer's needs and discover the customer's motivation for buying. Then you want to present the product. Define the objective, prioritize the audience's needs, create a message, say it with visuals, communicate with confidence, keep it simple, and create a conversation. After that, you must overcome objectives. Practice active listening. Repeat back what you hear. Validate prospects' concerns. Use follow-up questions. Leverage social proof. Set specific dates and follow-up dates. And anticipate sales objections. Following that is suggestion selling. An example of suggestive selling is an employee asking a customer if they would like an additional purchase that suits the client or that relates to the previous purchase. Next, you want to close the sale. It's the moment when the prospect decides to make the purchase. If you have done your previous steps effectively, this should be no problem. Finally, it's relationship building. You want to create a two-way communication between customer and the business. Therefore, you can get your customer coming back. We'll talk about that later. Of course, there are ethical issues involved with personal selling, one of which is high-pressure sale. A salesperson using psychological pressure on the customer to buy, appealing to their fear, greed, and pride to sell a given product or service. Another ethical issue is misrepresenting product information. A manufacturer, seller, or dealer of a product intentionally makes false or untrue statements regarding a product's capabilities or characteristics. Now, within the selling process, there's multiple ways to attack the situation. You could use business to business. One business makes commercial transactions with another. You could use inbound calling. A call center receives incoming calls from customers. Outbound calling. Call centers making outgoing calls to the shoppers. Digital. Components of marketing that are based online. Direct. Communications directly to pre-selected customers. Or business to customers. Companies promote its products and services to individual people. Now there's a plethora of methods and sources involved in customer acquisition and retention. You could use prospecting. Prospecting is the first step in a sales process, identifying potential customers. You could do cold calling, solicitation of a customer who has no prior interaction with the salesperson. Maybe networking, person-to-person sales by independent representatives, or maybe referrals, word of mouth. The customer introduces the company to family or friends. How is one going to make a purchase within the sales process? Well, there's a multitude of options. A common option is credit, the ability of a customer to obtain goods before payment based on the trust that they will pay it back in the future. Now, do they usually pay it back? No. Next is debit. Debit is similar to credit. However, the money that is being used is already in the cardholder's bank account. You could do peer-to-peer. Individuals lending money to individuals, or business through online service through investments. Our final option is one that is very popular in the 21st century, that being mobile payment. As the name suggests, mobile payment is a mobile wallet, such as PayPal or Venmo. Now, with these various payment options, of course, there's going to be fraud and theft along the way. The most common amongst credit and debit card users is PIN theft. PIN theft is stolen information from debit or credit cards that allows access to an individual's private information. Next is credit card skimming, commonly found in ATM machines. Credit card skimming is credit card information stolen through electronic devices via a magnetic strip. Our third example of fraud is identity theft.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
Identity theft is the fraudulent acquisition and use of a person's private information. And our final example of fraud is reward gaming. Reward gaming is leverage using a reward or loyalty program through participation in the company. Moving away from credit and debit cards and the fraudulence that come with it, it is now time for contracts. There's 11 terms that are commonly found within a contract, those being terms and conditions, confidentiality, intellectual property, exclusivity, negotiation, non-compete clauses, implied contract, express contract, consideration, acceptance, and capacity. Terms and conditions are commonly found within apps and websites. However, they are also found within the contract. Terms and conditions are the legal agreements between service provider and a person who wants to use said service. As the name implies, confidentiality is information companies would not want public. Next is intellectual property. Intellectual property is owned and legally protected by a person or company from outside use or implementation without consent. Intellectual property is protected through things such as copyright and trademarks. Next is exclusivity. Exclusivity is the limitation of supplies and its products to draw better price or value. Perhaps the most famous term revolving around contracts is the negotiations. A negotiation is a discussion that resolves an issue in a way both parties can find acceptable. Next up is a non-compete clause. Non-compete clauses is where one party agrees not to start a similar profession in competition against another party. Next up is an implied contract. An implied contract is an obligation that derives from actions, conduct, or circumstances. Basically, these are things that are already assumed while putting together the contract. Next is an express contract. Express contracts is an exchange of promises agreed either orally or in writing. Next up is consideration. Consideration is something bargained for and received by a promiser and a promisee. Then acceptance. Acceptance is an asset to the terms of an offer. Finally, our list comes to an end with capacity. Capacity is a person's ability to satisfy the elements required for someone to enter a binding contract. Now we learned the terms of a contract, but what are the types of a contract? One type is material sales agreement. Material sales agreement is a contract making large purchases for their supply chain. Similar to that, there's recurring sales agreement. Recurring sales agreement is a contract made for ongoing supplies of materials paid on a schedule. Then there's shared sales agreement. Shared sales agreement is a contract involving buying and selling a company's shares. Our last contract is asset sales agreement. Asset sales agreement is one business acquiring another. A successful sales strategy involves 6 factors. Sales growth is quite simple. As the name suggests, sales growth is the ability to grow revenue. A sales target allows you to track current performance for a business objective. Thirdly is opportunities. Opportunity prioritizes your sales effort based on likelihood to close. Fourth is sales to date. Sales to date is getting a sense of historical trends. Product performance allows you to track sales for each line that you have put out. Lead conversation rate continuously optimizes performance to steadily improve customer experience. Next is sell-through rate. Sell-through rate is tracking sales versus total inventory. After that is cannibalization rate. Cannibalization rate is how a new product would impact sales for an already existing product. After that is quote to close. Quote to close demonstrates how effective your team is to closing a deal. Sales per rep is simply forecasts of future analysis. Average purchase value is an increase of sale revenue by increasing average purchase value of each sale. Finally is sale by region. Sale by region is tracking what territories are most competitive and most profitable. Before we continue, we must first determine the difference between a warranty and a guarantee. A warranty is a promise to repair or replace if necessary within a period of time. On the flip side, a guarantee is certain conditions must be fulfilled, and if they are not fulfilled, the product can be replaced. When talking to a prospect, you must first find common objectives and then develop a response to anything they may ask. You must find the need, the product, the source, the price, and the time for your prospect. First is the need. The need is a consumer's desire to get functional utility out of an offering. Basically, a need is what a customer needs. I just realized what I said. Basically, a need is a necessity for your prospect. Next is the actual product. Product is a substance that is manufactured or refined for sale. Then is the source. A source is certain characteristics which have one or more inputs or outputs. Then is price. Price is, of course, cost consumers pay for a product. Your final common objective is time. Time is the guidelines when to introduce a product. Once you've put out your common objectives, your prospect may have questions. Now this is where you deliver your responses. Such responses are the substitution method, the boomerang method, the question, the denial, the demonstration, or a third-party testimony. The substitution is a decrease in sales for an input that can be attributed to consumers switching to cheap alternatives when the price raises. The boomerang method is hurling a buyer's objection back at them as a reason for buying. Question method is making the prospect answer their own objections. After that is denial. Objections raised by a prospect are being rejected on the grounds that the prospect is mistaken. Then is demonstration. A product being demonstrated to the potential customer. Finally is the third-party testimony. The third-party testimony is a statement about your product from customers and associates prior. Different cultures and different ethnicities have different wants and different needs when buying a product. Henceforth, you must develop a market target. Therefore, you know who your product is aimed for. In these ever-evolving times, of course, our technology is going to affect marketing and the sales process. Right now, salespeople have instant access to product specs and other tools. With these new products, this allows for effectiveness of sale pitches to become higher. You have higher closing rates and better customer experience, all thanks to our new technology. Now it's great that you've made this new partner in the business. However, how are you going to get them to keep coming back to you? You would use loyalty or customer relationship marketing. Customer relationship marketing, or CRM, is a process in which clients' relationships, customer loyalty, and brand value is built through marketing strategies and activities. Our final term is loyalty. Loyalty is, of course, companies focusing on retaining customers through incentives. Now you know the selling concepts, and now you can truly maintain a customer relationship. This marks the end of our lecture. I hope you learned something today, and you have a fantastic day. I've been recording. I've been recording for 45 minutes. I am going insane.